Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. We've got just another beautiful day here in paradise, and we are ready to go. We've got a lot lined up for you today. I've been traveling since yesterday. We're doing everything remotely, and it's a hot, sticky mess, but we are going to make it through. We're going to make it through here this morning. Joining us today on the program, we're going to be starting off with Dr. John Lott from the Crime Prevention Research Center. We're going to talk about a couple things, including his latest article in The Federalist, which talks about concealed carriers and how they are doing a better job of stopping shooters and bad stuff from happening. They do a better job than the police do. And what does the data show us? And what does the reporting data show us? And this goes back to DGU and all different kinds of stuff that we've talked about here on the past as well. Then in hour 2, we're going to be joined by Chris Cheng, Topshot champion from season 4 of the show Topshot on the History Channel. And we're gonna talk with them as well. It's gonna be fun stuff. And of course, as always, we're gonna finish up with Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. He'll come on board and talk with us, and we're gonna have a good time with him as well. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, let's just go ahead and add Dr. Lott to the conversation, and we'll get started over here right now. Good morning, Dr. Lott. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you doing?
You know, it's a beautiful day in paradise. It's not 40 below in Fairbanks, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. How about yourself?
Okay. How cold is it?
It's like 18 degrees, so it's not too bad. But been plenty of times that I've come to Fairbanks in March, and it's been a little colder than that. So that's it's all good. Dr.
Okay.
Lott, Dr. Lott, you've been doing, of course, a yeoman's job over there at the Crime Prevention Research Center, and you've got this recent piece up from the Federalist, which is talking about defensive gun use, specifically concealed carriers, because we've been told that they are the bane of our existence, right? I mean, we're dangerous. I remember when the first arguments were coming up for whether concealed carry laws should be enacted, and the people in Florida it's going to be shootout at the OK Corral, et cetera, et cetera. But the data is showing some different things. So please walk us through what's going on with this and what it means.
All right. Well, we looked at all the active shooting cases over the last decade from 2014 to 2023. There are 350 of these. And the FBI defines an active shooting case as a gun fired in public, not involving some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight over drug turf. And anything from one person being shot at and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. And we wanted to look at this because, as you say, you go and watch TV cop shows or whatever. And over the last couple of years, the gun control groups have been working with the script writers and producers on these different TV shows, constantly showing people with concealed carry permits either accidentally shooting the wrong person, getting in the way of the police, getting killed themselves. Always something going wrong if you watch ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox. And so we just wanted to get an idea of how accurate that was. And what we found was that police, because they're in uniform, have a very difficult job stopping these types of active shooting cases. The problem that you have is that you have real tactical advantages for the attacker in these cases. They can either wait, if they see a police officer there, they can wait for the police officer to leave. They're not going to go and do the attack if the police officer's right there, or they can move on to another target themselves. Or if they're going to insist on doing the attack in that particular place at that time, who do you think they take out first? They're going to take out the police officer because they know that they're the one person there that clearly has a gun. But there's a big difference when you're talking about concealed carry permit holders, because they don't know whether there's somebody there or who it is. If you have a number of people there, they have no clue who it is that might have a gun.
Right.
And what you find is that concealed carry permit holders are much more likely to stop these attacks. Over half of the attacks, about 52%, are stopped by concealed carry permit holders versus about 44% for police officers. But you also see a number of other interesting findings, and that is police are much more likely, about 7 times more likely, to end up being killed by these attackers than permit holders are. And they're much more likely to be wounded than permit holders are, because they're the one person they know to begin with has a gun that they'll go after.
Right. They have this ability.
And
They're,
there's some
they're
other
the-
interesting things that we found. So, for example, um, there's no cases where a permit holder got in the way of the police. There's only one instance where a permit holder had his gun taken away by the attacker. The police didn't have any cases like that. But possibly one of the more interesting things is that only one time did a permit holder accidentally wound a bystander out of the 180 times that they stopped these attacks. By contrast, there were 4 cases where a police officer accidentally shot and killed uh, the wrong person. 2 of them were actually fellow police officers, kind of friendly fire type incidents.
right.
So it
Right.
was rare in either case, but it was even rarer for concealed carry permit holders to accidentally shoot the wrong person.
I mean, these numbers are pretty staggering, Dr. Lott. And of course, the FBI, they just don't do it justice. It's not just errors in reporting a lot of this. Some of this stuff is just flat out missing. And it leads to the question that I think a lot of people, ask in these kind of cases where there's a lot of statistics that are floating around, but are being selectively reported. Is this because they're simply just bad at their job, or is there some kind of, agenda that's being kind of foisted from on high to guide these numbers, I guess?
It's kind of hard to get inside people's minds and to know why they're doing the types of things that they're doing. Uh, I mean, I dealt with the FBI and their active shooting reports when I worked at the Department of Justice up until January 2021. And, obviously, with regard to these active shooting cases, you and I have talked about the problems that they've had before, that they missed a lot of cases, um, a huge number, in fact, which are almost hard to believe. But what makes it particularly difficult to accept is that even when you go and point out to them cases that they've missed, they, even years later, even when you've had a situation where they've admitted that they missed something, they still haven't gone back and fixed it. And that's that's something that's very concerning. That kind of gets more to real bias that's there. But look, there are lots of problems with the FBI in terms of data problems. I mean, one of the things that concerned me a lot last year, and I think was done in order to try to influence the presidential election, was just how the FBI hid changes that they were making in the overall crime data. For a year, we were hearing news stories with headlines that would say crime is down, but people mistakenly think that it's increasing. And that was based on the 2022 crime data that was reported in October 2023. In fact, even when David Muir was doing the presidential debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, and he was correcting Trump, saying, well, the FBI shows that crime has fallen. The only crime data that was available that was final at that point was still from the 2022. The final data for 2023 didn't come out until September of last year. But when they had the report come out for 2023, they very quietly and secretly revised the data for 2022. There was no mention in their press release that they had changed the data for 2022. There was only one footnote that was one sentence long in the report itself, buried there, that said they had updated the data for 2022, but no mention that it had gone from originally reporting a drop to an increase, and no explanation for why they made the change or what the change involved. And even when it was discovered and the press started reaching out to them before the election, they still refused to clearly state that they had made a change. They just would say, we stand by
Right.
our data. Which
What does that mean?
just,
What does that mean?
yeah,
Our data is wrong, but we did change it and we updated it, but we stand by our data and we're not telling you that we changed it. I mean, what does that say?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's very concerning, and it makes it. And the thing is, it's important for the election because so much of the debate was about the crime data that was there. And, you would think, given that for a whole year, the media had been relying on this erroneous data that they had reported for 2022, all during the presidential campaign, you'd think, even if it wasn't being heavily relied, you would think that they would feel some obligation to say, look, the data that we put out before was wrong. Here's the corrected data. Here's why we corrected it. But nothing like that. You'd think they would do that in any case.
Sorry about that. Dr. John Lott is our guest from the Crime Prevention Research Center. You can find him at crimeresearch.org if you'd like to take a look at what he's writing and what they're working on right now. We're coming up on the break, and so we're going to take a quick one. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with Dr. John Lott. And I got some questions because he did mention one of my favorite topics, which is Hollywood, the television, the movie industry, and the anti-gun folks working hand in glove. And he's got some things to say about that. And I think it speaks to a larger cultural issue as well about what's going on in the fight over gun control. And we're going to talk with him about that in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It is Firearms Friday. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right, Dr. Lott is our guest. I apologize for the folderol here, but I've got I'm working in 2 different systems and 5 different screens and everything else today, so apologies on that. Dr. Lott, you've been beating on this drum for a bit now on the misreporting, the underreporting, the changing without notice, and all these kind of things that are going on at the FBI. And I guess my question to you is, now that President Trump is back in the White House and his administration is moving forward, we got Dan Bongino, we got Kash Patel. Do you have hopes that this is going to change, that this is going to go back to where we can have some trust and some confidence in what they're doing? Or is this a slow process? Do you think he'll be able to turn this around, or will the bureaucracy be too entrenched to, is it a bureaucratic problem, I guess, is my big question.
Well, I think it's going to be a tough slog to go and fix these things. They have a huge job. Obviously, I think most people are probably focusing on a lot of the other political biases that have existed with the FBI. You've had everything from spying on a presidential campaign to, spying on Catholics to spying on people who go to school board meetings. There have been a whole range of these types of issues out there, and you have a huge number of people that are kind of at the national, office there, and they're going to try to move people out into the field to actually go
Right.
and do crime fighting work.
Right.
They have a lot to do. But Cash and Dan are smart people. I know them both some. And Dan actually kind of does the will do the day-to-day running of the FBI. That's what the deputy does. And but it's going to be hard because they have so many problems to deal with, so much entrenched. After you may remember that famous picture where they had many of the FBI agents kneeling for Black Lives Matter type thing. The ones who didn't kneel, my understanding, got sent out to, the equivalent of Siberia in terms of FBI offices. The ones who did kneel end up getting promotions. And so, you have a lot of entrenchment there for people based on their political views over time. But with regard to the data, the problem that you have is, when I was working in the Department of Justice, I'd get asked, how is it that you can have the FBI spy on a presidential campaign and not have any leaks or whistleblowers there about the problems that are going on? And the answer is pretty simple. If everybody agrees with everybody else politically, you're not going to have leaks or whistleblowers if they all think that this is great, important stuff that they're doing. And I worry, at least from my interactions that I had with the FBI data people, that pretty much everybody there is a true believer. And the problem that you face is you just can't get rid of everybody because they have a lot of institutional knowledge there about how the data is put together and what's done.
Right.
And the other problem that you have is the president really only has 2 political appointments at the FBI. They have the director and the deputy director. There's no political appointee who runs the data that's there.
Right.
So they could go and bring in somebody who, is who basically would go and who basically as a civil servant to go and do that. But there's no political appointee that they have.
Dr. John Lott is our guest, the Crime Prevention Research Center. The Michael Duke Show continues. We've got more coming up. We're jumping back in. We're already back in down home in Homer and on the peninsula. We're going to continue here. Fairbanks is joining. Let's get to it. Here we go. All right, welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It's Friday, Firearms Friday, for those of you who are wondering. Dr. John Lott joins us from the Crime Prevention Research Center. You can find him at crimeresearch.org. During the break, we were just talking about the incoming Dan Bongino, and of course, Kash Patel now is the director of the FBI, and some of the changes that will be wrought by that. But I want to touch back on something that Dr. Lott mentioned briefly. Is they were looking at the kind of the conflux of the gun control organizations and industry and the entertainment industry, movies, television. I mean, these people have been saying the quiet part out loud in those areas. They've been bragging about working with, movie producers and show writers and stuff like that. I mean, quite honestly, it's one of the reasons why I started Firearms Friday all those years ago, was because I got sick and tired of watching this narrative that was on television, that anybody with any normal person with a gun, the character was a doofus and the thing, and they just didn't know and they didn't understand, and everybody was terrified, and it was just this whole persona that was portrayed on gun owners, and it's been a battle we've been fighting for years, Dr. Lott.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. You have millions and millions of people who watch these shows, and there's all sorts of biases, both with regard to guns and with regard to policing that's there, that misinformation that's put out. It's, you watch, um, you watch Law and Order, and you think licensing of guns is used all the time in order to go and actually solve crimes. In reality, it's like never used to go and solve crimes. In theory, if a criminal goes and uses a gun in a crime and he leaves it at the crime scene and it's registered to the criminal, then you can go and trace it back to the criminal there and solve the crime. But they use it in part because of political biases, but they also use it as a conceit to go and solve the crime within the half hour or whatever that they have to go and solve the crime that's there. It makes it easy for them to go and solve the crime. In reality, crime guns are never left at the crime scene, or virtually never. And the few times that they are there, it's because the criminal's either been killed or seriously wounded, so you've caught them anyway. And the couple times beyond that they're left there, they're not registered guns, and the once or twice that they are licensed and registered guns, they're not registered to the person who committed the crime. And so whether it's Hawaii or Chicago or New York or Maryland or DC or Pennsylvania, you've had tons of money spent on these registration licensing programs, and they can't point to any crimes that have been solved. Basically, the only reason why they set up the licensing and registration is to eventually confiscate the guns at some point in time in the future. But with regard to what we're talking about, with regard to this new study that we have, you look at the TV cop shows, and anything on ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox, what you see time after time is that you have a concealed carry permit holder, something goes wrong.
Right.
Either they shoot the wrong person, or the gun's taken away from them, or they get in the way of the police. We collect these on our website at crimeresearch.org. The one exception to these things is the Taylor Sheridan shows, either Yellowstone or Landman, which both on Yellowstone, they actually had a couple defensive gun uses that occurred. One actually involving a young boy, the grandson for John Dutton, and another one was at a breakfast shop that was actually, when I lived in Missoula, was actually about 4 minutes from my house. But and now the Landman show actually has people showing permanent concealed handguns or concealed handguns
Right.
in a positive light there too. But that's pretty much outside of the Taylor Sheridan shows. You just don't see it at all. And so that actually was kind of the motivation for us going and doing the looking at this just to see how accurate or inaccurate the media is on this.
Dr. John Lott's our guest from the Crime Prevention Research Center. You're right. And that was what I got sick and tired of seeing, especially with all these police procedurals and everything else where they continue to kind of push the false narrative and they treat everybody, any private citizen gun owner is treated like there's some kind of wackadoo. There's like an eye roll or something that goes on. Like you said, they end up in the story, they end up shooting a member of their household because they had a gun. And the moral of the story is you shouldn't have a gun. And yet you've got statistics that show that, again, proper, citizens who own firearms that have had the proper training that are responsible and do that, they are, more responsible. And in fact, in a lot of ways, they are more law abiding than even police officers across the country. I mean, it's the statistics show that it's just a false narrative.
Right. Look, I mean, police officers are very rarely convicted of any type of crime with a firearm. They're convicted about 1/20th the rate of the general population. But as you say, permit holders are convicted at about 1/12th the rate of police officers, and they lose their license for about 1/12th the way, and it includes a lot of things that really aren't even crimes in that number. So the effective rate for actual convictions is even much lower than that. That's like 1/240th the rate of the general population. And it's hard to think of many other groups that are as law-abiding, but the type of person who goes and carries a gun, who's a law-abiding individual, they go and get training on their own, even in constitutional carry states like Alaska, because they know a lot's at stake. If they do something wrong, they risk crossing the line into accidentally becoming a felon. And so they want to know what the rules are. And so you actually see when states like Kansas or Idaho have moved from a pure permit system to constitutional carry,
Right.
you see a big increase in the rate that people go and get training.
Yeah, no, we've advocated for that on this show for years. We call it the rule of three. If you're going to buy a firearm, you should plan on spending at least 3 times the cost of the firearm. One chunk for the gun, one chunk for all the materials and, great, good holsters and training stuff, cleaning materials, and then 1/3 for training. You've got to have the training. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. Even in a state like Alaska, we are a constitutional carry state. I still went through the concealed carry course back in the day, and it taught me a lot. I mean, I've been carrying a gun for a long time, but it taught me a tremendous amount about use of force and everything else. And that's a responsible thing to do. But again, we're portrayed poorly in that light.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting is that when you move to constitutional carry, people, as I say, go out and get the training. But the thing is, the training changes. Often what you see when you have right to carry laws, you have politicians involved in kind of setting up what the training is. And they put in many cases, all sorts of kind of useless things. California, for example, makes you spend an hour and a half on safe storage of guns. And I think a lot of it is just trying to indoctrinate people, exaggerating the risks of guns in the home and things like that, which is unfortunate. But the politicians, and kind of compromising and what have you, often puts in a lot of useless type of things or actually counterproductive things. And when you move to constitutional carry and you don't have the politicians involved in it, the type of training that you have in many states actually improves and becomes much more useful for people.
Right, because it's practical and because they have to compete in the open market to attract eyeballs and to get people into the classes. They have to be compelling and they have to be useful and they have to be cost effective. And it's not hours and hours of wasted time. I think that's a great point to make there. Dr. Lott, we were talking about before or during the break, rather, we were talking about the incoming aspects of Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. You said that, they've got their work cut out for them, that Dan's a good guy for the deputy director position. And there's been some discussion. JD Tuchili over at Reason Magazine wrote an article. Since Kash Patel is also the interim director of the ATF right now, there was a question and a thought that maybe, possibly, that would be something that would be laid at Bongino's feet when he came on board, where they would try and fold that under as a part of the deputy director's duties would be to oversee the ATF. What are your thoughts on making Patel the interim? Is this a permanent fix? Are they going to roll it together? What are your thoughts on this as you look at this?
Well, the acting director for the ATF, I think, can only be there for like 210 days, something like that. There's a limit on how long they can be there. I mean, I think Kash is a great guy, and I think that there's a lot that can be done. I think I met Kash. He's an extremely smart guy. He has the right views on these types of things. And there's a lot of problems in the ATF. I mean, the ATF over the last 4 years has been used to destroy all sorts of people in the firearms industry. You had the zero tolerance policy. Biden phrased it as going after, rogue gun dealers who were selling guns supposedly out of the back of their store to criminals. And of course, that's false. If they had information on that, they'd prosecute them and put them out of business anyway. But what you find is that what they were doing is going after somebody for, one typo or two typos that they had made 18 or 19 years ago that had been looked at by the Obama administration and been closed. And they'd made no other typo, just transposing two letters in one word on one form, and reopening those cases because they couldn't find anything else and using it to take away somebody's license to be a firearms dealer. And they had put literally thousands of gun dealers out of business. You had other things like Obama had Operation Choke Point, where he had trying to put out of business people in the oil industry or people in the firearms industries that they didn't approve of politically, by putting pressure on finance companies not to go and do business with people in those industries. So, can you operate if there's no financial institution that will handle the credit cards or checks for your customers, that won't
Right.
set up a bank account for you?
Right.
Yeah, you can, but it's a lot more costly to operate. And Trump got rid of it when he got in there during his first term. And then as soon as Biden got back in there, he reinstituted it.
Right.
And God knows how many companies they put out of business in oil or coal or firearms as a result of that. And you had other things like them putting together a national gun registry. This is one reason why they were working with Bank of America to know all the transactions people had used their credit cards for to go and
Right.
buy guns.
Right. Merchant
It's,
codes and stuff like that. Right.
It's the reason why they were pushing for these universal background checks so they could have a complete record of everybody who purchased a gun. This gets back to the thing that we were talking about earlier about whether licensing and registration actually is used to solve crimes. You have a case right now that the Supreme Court heard last October that we're waiting to hear a decision on, the Vanderstock case, which deals with what they call ghost guns, which are really homemade guns that we've had. Homemade guns have existed here since before the United States was even a country.
Right.
And but the Biden administration tried to scare the Supreme Court justices by saying how important this was for solving crimes, even though that's not true. And I hope what's going to happen quickly is that Kash and Pam Bondi are going to withdraw the earlier rules that they had for the ghost gun stuff and make the case moot so that the Supreme Court won't have to issue a decision on it. Because I worry that John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett might be swayed by the false claims about how important it is to solve crimes rather than just looking at whether the law is correct or not,
Right.
or the
Well,
regulation is correct or not.
and that's where they could really use some statistics on how many times that's actually those statistics are actually used. Dr. John Lott is our guest. Dr. Lott, hold with us here. We're going to do one more segment, and up next we're going to talk about HB89. That's the red flag law here that is being proposed by Representative Andy Josephson here in the state of Alaska, and it is it's I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I get worried when they keep bringing it back up again and again and again. We're going to talk about that with Dr. Lott here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
If you need somebody to testify up there on the bill, let me know.
You know what? I'm going to pass your information on to one of the House members who might be in the chat room here. I'm looking to see if Representative McCabe is in the chat room, or Senator Myers. They both frequent the chat room quite often. I don't see either one of them this morning, but I'm going to reach out and I'm going to pass your contact info off to both of those. Most importantly, Kevin McCabe for the House bill, because I think it would be good to talk about this. I mean, they keep bringing it back up, and I don't know if it's just a attempt to wear us down, or if they think that they'll be able to sneak it in one more time or not. I mean, what are you seeing in other states, Dr. Lott? Are they repeatedly trying to push this once it's been defeated, or do they let one and done when it's all said and done?
No, it's something that perennially is brought up. Alaska's not alone. Unfortunately, you have like 19 states or whatever that have it right now in the District of Columbia. There's a move right now in Florida. DeSantis just came out in his State of the State speech just in the last week or so, saying that he wanted to repeal the red flag law that was there. And there's legislation before the state legislature to do that. And so that's, I think, a positive development. If Florida repeals it, I think it will, hopefully start a trend in other states. But we'll have to see what happens there. I'll probably be helping them out too, for sure.
You mentioned Taylor Sheridan, and I'm jumping all over the place here, but I was just thinking about it. Yeah, you've got a lot of contacts. I mean, I've seen you on a lot of different shows, and I've heard you on a lot of different radio shows, and seen you on different interviews. Have you ever gotten a chance to talk to somebody like Taylor Sheridan, who's kind of pro? I mean, it's not just pro-gun. Taylor Sheridan seems like very pro-common sense in his narratives, very pro-America, private citizen. Have you ever had a chance to talk with him or work with any of his productions or anything?
No, I'd love to. I mean, Taylor, I've enjoyed most of his shows, and he's an extremely interesting guy. He's a little bit complicated politically. So on things like guns, he's definitely, I would say, conservative. On things like energy production, anybody who watches Landman would know that he's definitely conservative on that, talking about windmills and what have you. But on things like Native Americans, one would probably put him well to the left on those types of issues. So he's an interesting guy.
Yes.
And I'm just glad that he's able to educate some people on some of these issues, like on guns and stuff. Having a young person use a gun defensively to save his mom's life is something that would be completely taboo on any network show. The fact that he had that on Yellowstone was just amazing.
Yeah, no, and I can't tell you how many times people have passed me clips from Landmen. I hadn't watched it yet, and now I've started it, and I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in. But it is I mean, it's quite astonishing the things that he puts and says, and the things that they put in that show. And like I said, it's been clipped. I'm seeing it on YouTube Shorts and TikTok and X and every place else. People,
Right.
it's really resonating, I think, with people, and I think there's a reason for that, Dr. Lott.
I agree with you. I think it's just a hunger for having something that isn't so politically biased, in the other way. You have 21 million 21.5 million Americans who have a concealed carry permit in the United States. You have 29 constitutional carry states, which are like 2/3 of the land area in the United States. You can pretty much go from Florida up to Montana and Idaho, with constitutional carry. And so, uh, you know, you have gotten, I think surveys that we've done indicate that maybe about 15% of the adult American population carries at one time or another over the course of a year. Um, so, a lot of people understand these things. They understand the importance. Um, and it's just interesting to see that there's somebody out there that kind of understands them.
Yeah, no, and it's refreshing. It really is refreshing to watch some of these shows because you finally get something on the other side. And I think quite honestly, it's one of the reasons why Sheridan has been so wildly popular in all of his
I agree.
in his endeavors right now. So we're about 20 seconds out. We're going to rejoin here the radio. Dr. John Lott is our guest. And we're going to continue with him. Please, if you haven't gone out and checked out his website at crimeresearch.org, you're missing out. You can also pick up his book, More Guns, Less Crime, Gun Control Myths, and many others. Let's get to it. The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go. All right, we're back. Dr. John Lott is our guest. The Michael Dukes Show continues. Dr. Lott is with us. You can find him at crimeresearch.org if you want to take a look at what he's always putting up his latest pieces, what he's writing about, his various interviews from around the country. And he's being interviewed by a ton of people all the time. He is an expert in statistics and especially when it comes to crime and gun use and gun laws and things like that. Dr. Lott, we here in Alaska continue to face, and I just asked you the question during the break, you said it's a perennial problem everywhere, but we've already defeated this red flag gun law thing here in Alaska a couple times. And yet the Democrats in the legislature just keep bringing it back again and again and again. My friend Tom Knighton over at bearingarms.com has written another piece about it, quoting some of the stuff out of Must Read. But here we are yet again talking about red flag laws. And there are serious problems constitutionally in due process terms and just in actually fixing the problems that they say they're trying to fix. Give us your thoughts on the red flag situation and this bill that's up here in front of the legislature here today.
Right. Well, I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding about red flag laws versus other laws that you already have. All the states already have what they call civil commitment laws. They've had these laws for 50, 60 years. And if you believe somebody might be a danger to themselves or others, and the police come in and they think that there's, quote, a reasonable probability that somebody's like that, which is like a 20% chance, the police can take the person in for a psychiatric evaluation. If the psychiatrists that evaluate the person think that there's a reasonable chance that the person is in fact a danger to themselves or others, there can be an immediate court hearing where evidence will be presented there. Witnesses can be cross-examined, and a judge then, if a judge thinks, it depends on the state, think that there's preponderance of evidence, or it could be higher standards. Uh, it could be beyond a reasonable doubt. Believes that that's the case. The judge has a wide range of options that are there, where they can go, and if they think the person, they can go and say, well, if you agree to go and see voluntarily a psychiatric expert, we'll have you come in another week or two and we'll reevaluate the situation. Or they can go and have it so that they can take away the person's driver's license if they think they're going to drive a car through a group of people, or they can take away their guns, or in the most extreme case, they can involuntarily commit the person. What happens with these red flag laws is that you simply have somebody make a written complaint. The judge never talks to the person who makes the complaint. There's no hearing. And based solely on that written complaint, the judge will make a decision whether or not to take away a person's guns. The only thing that the judge can do under red flag laws is to take away a person's guns. So this is used usually, almost always, for somebody who you think is suicidal. But if you really think somebody's suicidal, is it serious solution to simply take away the person's legally owned guns? If you think that somebody's suicidal, aren't there other ways that somebody could go and commit suicide? Even if you think it's one of those rarer cases where somebody may go and harm others, you don't think there are other ways that the person can harm them, or even
Right.
illegally obtain a gun?
Right.
Or we've seen people in Germany and other places drive cars and trucks through crowds of people. We had a couple of those occurring on New Year's Day earlier this year
Right.
in the United States, in Las Vegas and New Orleans. Um, so uh, but the gun control people want you to believe that if somebody is a danger, simply taking away their guns makes everything safe at that point,
Right.
and it makes them safe. And I have a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, Andy Pollock. Andy lost his daughter at the Parkland school shooting in Florida. And after he lost his daughter, he moved to rural Oregon. He just didn't want to be around there anymore. There are too many memories of his daughter, and he wanted to get about as far away as he could. So he moved to rural Oregon. Anyway, at the same time that he moved in, there were neighbors who moved in from California, who it turns out just hated Andy politically. They first of all had a property line dispute on there. I mean,
Right.
Andy's spoken out. He gave a talk at the 2020 Republican National Convention.
Right.
He's spoken out on school safety. He's criticized the Obama administration rules, which he think led to Parkland. He's spoken out in favor of like arming teachers and staff at schools.
Right.
These neighbors just thought that he was just the most horrible person in the world.
Right.
And so anyway, they did a property line dispute. They lost that, and then they brought extreme risk protection orders, these red flag laws against him. All they had to do is put in a written complaint. Andy was disarmed. When the case was finally heard before court, after he'd been disarmed for a while, the judge didn't even require Andy to put on his side of the case, because he says there's no threat here. Why did you file this piece of paper to begin with to have Andy's guns taken away?
Right.
And the thing is, this is rural Oregon. People in Alaska probably can appreciate this. There are bears, there are mountain lions, other things. Andy, when he was outside his home one day, had a mountain lion that came up that had killed his goats, some of his goats, and was threatening him. Fortunately, he had his dog with him, who fought the mountain lion, allowed Andy to escape. But the dog ended up having to have a lot of stitches, got all cut up by the mountain lion that was there. But Andy normally would have had his gun with him in order to protect himself, but he was disarmed.
Right.
And so anyway, and then when that red flag law case was, and he ended up being in jail because one time during the time that this order was in effect, this is rural Oregon. There's like one mall.
Right.
Andy had arranged to meet his wife at this mall, and it turns out that the neighbor wife just happened to be at the mall parking lot at the same time. He pulled in. She was already there, and she calls the police. The police come and arrest him for violating the order not to be within 100 feet or so of this person. Uh, and but it but it was crazy because he shouldn't even have had it to begin with.
Well,
Had
and that's
the order.
that's the biggest problem with these orders is that, one, it completely eliminates due process in this ex parte process. You can't face your accuser. And even if it turns out, as it did for this one, that it's a completely false claim, there's no real penalties for the people filing the false claim. There's no, you could perjure yourself. You could just say, I fear for my life. And the judge throws it out and says, what's going, but there's no penalty for them.
Right. Look, many of these red flag laws have provisions that say if you lie, there will be a penalty. But, as somebody who's been involved in the criminal justice system for a long time, people never get prosecuted for perjury in these cases. I mean, virtually all cases, or a huge number of cases anyway, have people who lie. Judges see this all the time. I mean, people have completely contradictory stories that are going on in almost any case.
Right.
And they just are never prosecuted, as you say. And so it's a real mess that's there. So what do you do in this case? Andy has had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on his legal defenses for these cases. And the neighbors get to pretty much bring these things for free because the county district attorney handles the prosecution of these red flag cases.
Well,
So they can weaponize the legal system against somebody at very low cost to themselves.
It's a danger. It's a danger anywhere it is, and we're not going to stand for it here in Alaska. There should be some penalties for the DA for bringing it along in the first place. Quite honestly, he should have investigated and figured it out. But Dr. John Lott has been our guest, crimeresearch.org. If you want to find out more about Dr. Lott and what he writes about and what he does, we're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show continues. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Chris Cheng, Topshot champion, season 4 of the show Topshot, is going to be joining us, as well as finishing things up with Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com. That's all dead ahead here on the Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. If you're going to go, be kind, love one another, live well. Dr. Lott, hold the second. We'll be right back with more. Well, Dr. Lott, I can't thank you enough, as always, for coming on board and sharing with us. You care to give us a sneak peek of what you're working on now or what you're focusing on right now? We'd love to hear and get a little jump on the rest of the crowd out there.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, right now I was spending a lot of time. I'm still working more on this issue about these active shooting cases. Hopefully we'll have some more stuff on that soon, but that's what we've been working on. But I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it, Dr. Lott.
People can find the data and everything else at our website at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
Okay. I see that Senator Rob Myers is in the chat room right now. So hopefully, Rob, if you're listening, Dr. Lott is volunteering to be a expert guest or witness or testifier there on any of these red flag laws. So we'll see if we can get you that information and you can get Dr. Lott down there to testify on this stuff, because it's just nutty that we're even talking about it. All right. Well, Dr. Lott, thank you so much. I see that you're getting the sun bleaching there, so I'll let you go. Yeah. Appreciate you coming on board, and we will talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks. All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks so much. Dr. John Lott, crimeresearch.org. Hi, guys. How are you? Let me pull down all the stuff that doesn't need to be here right now, and get stuff squared away. My God, it has been 15 hours. It's just so brutal. I went to fly out of Homer last night. and the plane had a mechanical malfunction, and there was no way of telling if it was going to get down there in time to get me up here in time for the dog races. So I climbed in my car and I drove I was going to drive to Fairbanks, but I decided to see if I could get my flight changed to the connection in Anchorage. And I raced to Anchorage and got there just in time to board the plane and come here. So I arrived here. I got to the hotel this morning at 1:00 this morning, and here I am. It has been usually when I broadcast from Fairbanks, I usually come by the station the night before and I take my time and I set everything up and I get everything working, and because there's always something that doesn't work right and everything else. And this morning I got up at 4:30 after about 3.5 hours of sleep and came over here and put it together. And stuff was busted right up until 1 minute before the show started. I was still trying to fix little things and get stuff done, but wow. And now I'm going to go out and broadcast the dog races all day outside in the cold. I'm going to sleep so good tonight. You've no idea. I'm going to sleep so good tonight. Rob Meyer says, sounds great. I don't know if the bill's going to be heard in the Senate, Rob, but I'll get you the information, and I'm going to see if I can get it over to Kevin McCabe as well, to see what it looks like. Yeah, welcome to Fairbanks. At least it's not 20 below. That's all I could say. I got here last night. It was 18 degrees. It was just nice. And it's true. It is absolutely true. It's not as cold in Fairbanks as it is back home in Homer. At 18 degrees in Homer, it's colder. It's a lot colder, to the bone colder. What dog races? I am broadcasting the Open North American Championships, which, if the Iditarod is the Indianapolis 500, then the ONAC, the Open North American Championships, is the quarter-mile drag racing of dog mushing, because they run on a 20-mile track and they do it in 45 minutes. These dogs are running at 25 miles an hour. They're sprint dogs. Sprint mushing is what it is. And it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And yes, I know Brian said you sound different. Well, usually because I tweak this pretty hard when I get here, but I just threw everything in this morning, and so I've been tweaking it a little bit, but I don't sound nearly like I normally do on the home setup, for sure. That's where it is. But yeah, 1:00 this morning, I think it was 1:15 when I crawled into bed. And then, of course, the Homer station went off the air at 2:00 this morning, and my alarm went off and it woke me back up and I had to fix something. Of course it did. Of course it did. This is, I signed up for this. I'm just letting you know, I signed up for all this. This is how it works. You thought the Open North Americans? No, the Open North Americans have always been held in Fairbanks. In fact, it's the longest. It's run longer than the Iditarod. It's 76, 77 years now. And no, Melissa did not pick me up in a limousine, which probably would have been better. Although somebody from the station did leave me a vehicle there so I could just hop in and go. That was nice. I will say that. That was nice. Which reminds me, I've got to kill my parking pass at the long-term parking at the Homer Airport because I'm not there anymore. Remind me to do that before the end of the show. I gotta go do that here this morning. Anyway, Chris Cheng, Topshot champion, is going to be joining us here. I have barely even read the news stories for the firearm stuff this morning, so we'll figure something out here. All right, we're gonna go. We're gonna get back into it. I don't have enough windows here to be able to see everything, so here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for the body, this is for the blood.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to the program. It is hour 2 of the big radio show. I'm broadcasting live from Fairbanks, so if it sounds a little different, it's because it is different. I'm here in Fairbanks, and we're ready to go. We're getting ready to do the big dog races. The Open North American Championships. I was just telling folks in the chat room that the Open North America, if the Iditarod, for those of you who are NASCAR fans, if the Iditarod is the Indianapolis 500, right, the marathon, 500 miles, if the Iditarod is the Indy 500, then the ONAC, the Open North American Championships, is the quarter-mile drag racing championships, because these are sprint mushing dogs. They're a completely different type of dog, different breed. They're bred for speed, and these dogs will run 20 miles in under an hour. I mean, it's crazy. These dogs can flat out boogie. And it's surprisingly, this race is actually the oldest continuous sled dog race in the world. It's older than the Iditarod. This is the 70. Maybe Melissa can help me out here. I think this is the 77th year that the ONAC has been run, and it's amazing. It's a lot of fun. I have a great time doing it. I've been broadcasting it for going on 20 years. I guess I'm the anchor, I guess is what I would be, down there at the race start and finish line at the Mushers Hall on Farmers Loop Road here in Fairbanks. We see all the dogs leave. We always get great expert commentary from some of the ex-mushers and mushing professionals there. And then we throw it out to folks out on the trail like Melissa, 79th. Thank you, Melissa. 79th running. It's an amazing thing. And so we got people standing out from the radio station out on the trail who are not only giving us updates on the dogs, but also timing so that we can check. I mean, it's that close. They're doing like split timing out on the trail so that the mushers who are listening can hear how they're doing, and if they need to, they can speed up or slow down or do whatever. It's an amazing race, and it's something I really enjoy, and I'm glad here. The North American, yes, Iditarod started in 73. This started in the 40s. I mean, it's literally, this is the 79th running of that. And if you'd like to listen to the Open North American today, which coverage starts at 12:30, I believe, and the race kicks off at 1, you can go to kfarradio.com, kfarradio.com, and you can listen to the live stream there. And we'll be streaming it out onto the interwebs for folks around the world. And it's got an international following. We've got one of the multiple winning champions is Egil Ellis. He was from Germany. They've had a lot of German mushers, Norwegian mushers. Nikki Sayao was originally a rock star. He was a literal rock star from South Korea. He's now moved to Alaska, out to Salcha, and he trains here all the time. He runs every year, but it's a fun time. So if you haven't had a chance to, if you're in Fairbanks and you haven't had a chance to come see the races, you should come out and check them out. If you are somewhere else in the state or listening online to the show here across the country and you want to see something or hear something that's truly Alaskan, you can go to KFARradio.com at about 12:30 p.m. Alaska time, which is 1:30 Pacific, and start listening to the coverage there. Oh, yes, and there's a free app. You can find us on the App Store. KFAR is on the App Store as well. So go check it out. It's gonna be fun. Except for I left my boots in my car at the airport in Anchorage. Thank God it's gonna be 20 above, right? That's all I could say right now. All right. Welcome back to the program, and thanks for coming in and joining us. We're going to be joined here in about 10 minutes or so by Chris Cheng, Topshot champion, season 4 of the History Channel show Topshot. He'll be with us here, and we'll get a chance to chat with him about all the stuff that's going on around the country. Let me hit a couple of the interesting headlines that are up and around the country right now, and we actually made the news. Bearing Arms and The Truth About Guns both picked up the story out of Must Read Alaska about the Democrats in the Alaska legislature trying to get their gun thing on again. They're now attempting to take away your due process rights and abrogate your Second Amendment rights. Representatives Andy Josephson of Anchorage and Sarah Hannon of Juneau. Now, I was traveling yesterday, and so I did not hear the testimony in House State Affairs. It was set to take place yesterday about 3:00 in the afternoon. So maybe if somebody who was listening or was in there in the chat room can give me kind of the highlights of it. I don't know where the bill is sitting at right now, if it's still in House State Affairs or if it's coming up for another day of testimony or not. I'll see if we can get some info for you on that. But basically, HB89 would create the red flag law that would allow ex parte hearings to take place that would basically force you to surrender your firearms without due process. The ex parte process means you are not involved. You are not there. Somebody can basically file a brief or a piece of paper or a report with the police or the courts, and then the judge would issue an initial finding that would cause you to lose your Second Amendment rights, and then the burden of proof would be on you to petition the court for the return of your property once that order has been vacated. And as Dr. John Lott was just talking about, his friend in Oregon was facing a challenge like this, and it was weaponized. The red flag law there in his hometown was weaponized against him after spending tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars defending himself. The judge threw it out without even him having to even present his case or his side of it. And yet there is no penalty for people who file false allegations or who file, misleading reports or whatever. This is a very slippery slope, and this is a dangerous thing. And if you remember correctly, this is one of the things that I was very concerned about with President Trump, because he had said right after Parkland that we'll take the guns and worry about due process later. Now, it's been proven so far that he is definitely changed his tune, for which I'm exceedingly thankful. And he has become a more stalwart defender of the Second Amendment than I could have hoped and imagined. But these red flag laws are continuing to pop up across the country. They're trying to get them passed. There's already involuntary commitment proceedings that are available. If somebody is a danger to themselves or others, there is already a process that still maintains the due process rights of the accused and everything else. Why are we trying to abrogate that right of due process, the ability to face your accuser. And why are we making it more dangerous? If you will recall, one of the first executions of the red flag law, one of the first times it was used was on the East Coast. I want to say it was Connecticut or Rhode Island, and it was a family member who was having a dispute with her brother or her uncle. Sorry, it was a relative. It was a pretty close relative, first or second relations, brother or uncle. And she called a red flag law in on him, and the police showed up at his house at 5:15 in the morning. He was armed, obviously, because I'm not answering the door of my house at 5:15 in the morning without being armed. And an altercation ensued, and he was shot and killed. And then it turned out later that she had really just done it because she felt he was a gun nut and she was upset with him over some family dispute. This makes it more dangerous. Now, the NRA and GOA, Gun Owners of America and the National Rifle Association, are both opposed to this. And from everything that I've seen, most of the people that have commented or testified that I've seen so far in the public sector, anyway, in the public square, have been against it. But the problem, again, is the weaponization of these laws has happened across the country. I mean, boyfriend-girlfriend spats, divorce situations. Again, people just neighbors. That was the one that Dr. Lott was just talking about, where neighbors didn't like the new neighbors moved in from California, didn't like that this guy was outspoken about his politics. And so they called in a restraining order and a red flag law against him. I mean, this is nutty. And the thing is, I mean, this is Alaska, where even many of the Democrats are pro-gun. Why would you hang your hat on? I mean, I'm almost tempted to say, sure, bring it to a vote of the floor. Bring it out on the vote of the floor. I mean, I want these people to be on record. Let's go ahead and put these people on record and let them vote and let them live with that vote. It just seems like this is, the whole thing sounds very, very shaky, because people are people. I mean, people are people. That's who they are. And sometimes if they can use a lever, especially when they're angry, it could be misused, and it has been. That's not just the thing. I'm not just talking about a hypothetical right here, folks. I'm talking about real world cases of red flag laws being used in a way that harms people, not just, as far as no due process and everything else, but actually has killed people. That's a problem. So we're going to find out here if there is we're going to find out here if there's going to be there's more testimony, says Terry in the chat room. There's more testimony coming. And so we'll see. We'll see what when the next piece is. Terry just said you can't trust the legislature. 5 Republicans voted for. Oh, that's 69, not 89. Okay, that's the education bill. All right. Well, we'll find out what's going on with this red flag law, and we will let you know. But right now, we got to go to break because Chris Cheng is waiting patiently in the wings. I think he got some coffee. He was so droopy this morning. Not as droopy as I am, but he's so droopy this morning. Well, it looks like he got his hair cut. All right, we're going to continue here. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more and Chris Cheng right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. All right. We're back. We're back. Chris Cheng, Topshot champion, season 4, is waiting in the wings. And my heart bleeds for him. He was like, I just got up. I need coffee. And I'm like, I haven't even been to bed yet. That's the kind of day that I've been having since yesterday. I haven't even been to. Chris Cheng joins us. Let's go over there right now and get everybody involved. Did I break something here? Okay, no. Anytime my phone goes off now, I'm afraid I broke something and something's off the air. Hello, my friend. How are you? How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I am slightly caffeinated now.
Slightly caffeinated. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even take the time this morning to stop and get coffee or Monster or Red Bull or anything. I was just like, you didn't hear my story of woe. I was tried to fly out of my hometown last night, which is 500 miles south of Fairbanks. And there was some kind of mechanical issue with the plane and I was going to miss all the connections. And so I climbed in my car and I started driving. And I got about 100 miles out of town and realized maybe I can change my connecting flight out of Anchorage. So I raced to Anchorage and literally stepped on the plane as they were getting ready to close the boarding door and caught the plane to Fairbanks. So I had to 250 mile it last night. And then, so I got in at 1 this morning and then I got up at 4:30 to come over here and get everything set up. But so I'm a little punchy right now, but
wow.
Can you share some of your coffees?
Maybe a little more punchy than usual.
Yeah, a little more punchy than usual. Look at you. I like your hair did. I like your hair did better than what you had before. I do. How's the
the long hair was an experiment.
No, I mean you got to try it. You got to try up. You got to try that.
A bunch of lag.
Yeah, I could see you're lagging pretty.
Hey, Michael, I'm getting a bunch of lag here.
Yeah, you want to try and reconnect?
Let me try something really quick here.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm coming through clear for you.
Wi-Fi.
I don't know what's going on.
Let me refresh my browser.
Okay, he's going to refresh. He's going to refresh and rejoin. Joel says, I live by the airport. You want me to check on your car? My car is at the Anchorage terminal, not the other one. So at least he has hair to experiment. That's just mean, man. That's not right. There's something wrong with you, Brian. Why would you bring that up? You know that I'm sensitive about my hair or lack thereof. I told my wife, I said, if it gets any worse, I'm just going to shave it bald. I'm going to be bearded and bald. That's what I'm going to do. Bearded and bald. Let's see. I'm scrolling upwards here. He called, I have 400 neighbors and only one of them hates me so much that he stalks me on X and writes hit pieces about me. He called my secretary the other day to try to get me fired and she laughed at him. Man, that's some real hate. You got to really be invested for something like that to happen. You got to be really invested for those kind of things to go on. All right, let's bring the Topshot Meister back on the program. Hello, my friend. Are you feeling more less choppy?
Hopefully, I closed some browser tabs. Things seem a little better. Yeah.
Look, 37 browser tabs is not a good idea. Okay, I'm just saying.
37, more like 87 tabs.
87 tabs. We are taking all of your memory. Yeah, no, I walked. Yeah. I was helping my son with something here a while back, and he's like, "Yeah, it seems to be running a little slow." And I opened it up, and he had 3 windows, and between the 3 windows, there was like 90 tabs open. I'm like, "This might explain why you're having a problem." Yeah, all right. It's computers, man. Computers are hard. All right. Let's get into it. We're 15 seconds out. Chris Cheng is our guest. Topshot champion season 4. I don't have your favorite intro. Sorry. I'm on a remote computer. So
we're going to switch it up this morning.
I know. I'm going to switch it up. We're going to get it going. Here we go. Let's do it.
Now you're cooking with gas. The Michael Duke Show.
Common sense.
That's right. Now you're cooking with gas. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Topshot Chris Cheng. You can find him at topshotchris.com. Author of the book Shoot to Win. Spokesperson for the NSSF. Sporter of a wicked good haircut. He is all of that and more. And he joins us this morning to talk about guns and firearms and gun laws and everything else. Hello, my friend. How's life in the big city for you? What's going on?
Yeah, good morning to you. It is very rainy here in the Bay Area, and I actually don't mind the rain every once in a while. So it's very refreshing and cleansing.
Do you love getting caught in the rain? Do you like? Are you into champagne? I mean, I'm just.
Not sure what that's referencing, but I will say that I did get caught in the rain on Wednesday with some buddies at the range. I was hosting two friends who are in the restaurant industry here in San Francisco, and actually they're Michelin star chefs, and they're also gun guys.
Oh,
you know, one of the funny things that I've learned about the food industry is so many of them are gun guys and gun gals, and not just food, but also wine and beer. I mean, the beer side, not too surprising, but like in Napa and Sonoma, a lot of the vintners are gun guys, right? They're hunters. And so we were shooting at my range on Wednesday, and it came down, like it just started pouring. And it's an outdoor range, on my property, and it wasn't raining when we started shooting, so I was dressed for warmth, but not for rain, even though I knew rain was in the forecast. And once it started raining, I was just getting soaked, and I felt really dumb because I have all the right rain gear, right? I have all the right rain gear.
Yeah.
But I was just freezing and wet. But it's funny. It was a really great experience to learn, or just to get experience shooting in all kinds of conditions, right? I mean, like, I had water, running down my face because my hat got soaked with water.
Right.
Water rained down my face. My hands are freezing. My hands were freezing up a little bit, right? But we were having some fun little, shooting competitions under time, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I want to be able to shoot in any kind of conditions. So shooting in the rain was pretty fun.
I mean, it sounds fun. Although I'm questioning your man card here for not knowing the Pina Colada song. Do you like pina coladas? Getting caught in the rain? Are you into health foods? Are you into champagne? I mean, come on. No. Look,
no.
Oh my. That is like the classic California. Okay, never mind. I mean,
maybe that'll be my intro song, for next month.
Yeah, I'll have to do it. I mean, I'd get a strike on YouTube, but I would do it for the strike on YouTube just to get you going on. Chris, it's interesting that you mentioned your friends, Michelin chefs who are into shooting, Napa Valley vintners. There's a lot of people, I think. And I think it's becoming more and more apparent, and it has over the last 4 or 5 years, that there have been more and more people involved in the gun culture. And I think a lot of people may have secretly been gun curious or have been secret gun lovers and they've come out of the closet, so to speak, because all of a sudden they realize that they're not alone. I mean, you think I'm wrong? I mean, you probably deal with more in kind of left coast California there. It's probably verboten to talk about guns, but have you discovered that that's the case?
It's absolutely the case where we're seeing more and more first-time shooters and gun owners coming from these sort of non-traditional areas, such as the African American community and the Asian American community in particular, which I can speak to both. I work very closely actually with the National African American Gun Association. And so they have seen their numbers rise tremendously over the past 5-some years, as has the Asian Pacific American Gun Owners Association, where I'm on the board. and we've seen just a tremendous 43% year-over-year increase of first-time Asian American gun owners and first-time shooters in those demographics, and then also the LGBT segment as well. A tremendous interest from the LGBT community around learning how to shoot, how to buy their first gun, and I can also speak firsthand to that. I'm organizing a fun shoot for a bunch of my gay friends who are both gay and Asian, like me. And it's so funny, the past few months, I get these gay Asian friends who they come up to me and they sort of the low whisper at parties, "Hey, Chris, like, I've always been thinking about, learning how to shoot." Right. And it's like, and they know who I am. It's like, we don't need to whisper.
So,
Like,
so now you need to create a new gun organization. They got AAOPC, GOA. Now it has to be the Gaysian Gun Owners Association.
Yeah, there you
GGA,
go.
right? There you go. I mean, it's only
here first on the Michael Duke Show.
That's right. The Gaysian Gun Owners Association. We're a very exclusive crowd over here.
Indeed. But yeah, no, but to your point, right? It's I think there's just been so many people who have been gun curious, right? And there are parts of our country that have created these cultures of shame around certain topics, right? That it's taboo to talk about guns. It's taboo to even talk about self-defense.
Right.
Like
right.
that topic at a high level, it's like we can't even talk about self-defense because we're gonna feel sorry for the criminal who gets the crap beat out of them. It's like, how did our whole mental paradigm here shift when we have sympathy for criminals, right?
Well, that's the victims. That's the victimhood thing, right? I mean, it's not victims. It's not victimhood in terms of the actual victim, but somehow the criminal is a victim of society or success or white guilt or something. They're a victim of something, and they just can't be it's like you see the interview with the lady, like, my poor Johnny was such a good boy, and then he got that gun and that just turned him. He's a straight A student, and he's a football star, and yeah, but he's a thug. He got a gun and went into somebody's house and got killed. I have no sympathy for somebody who decides to do something like that.
Yeah, a common argument here in San Francisco in defense of criminals is, well, if the economy wasn't so bad, or if life wasn't so hard, then this criminal wouldn't have had to resort to stealing, right, or to mugging someone.
Yeah,
right?
Because Chris Cheng's knocking over the next 7-Eleven because he needs a Red Bull or something. I mean, come on, it is the weakest sauce. And you're right. And then of course we saw during COVID that the police weren't coming. Right. I mean, after the summer of love and the whole George Floyd thing, and police departments are like, nope. People calling 911 and the 911 operator saying, sorry, you're on your own. People realized they have to take personal responsibility for that.
Yeah, and the current environment is really encouraging a lot of. And so let's be frank, right? There's a lot of Americans who are scared, right, for the current state of our country for whatever variety of reasons. And I'd say, what I've noticed is that there's more liberals, right, and more Democrats in particular, just being here in San Francisco, who are thinking more about their personal security, right, and their safety, which is leading them to change their paradigm, right, change their attitude towards self-defense, to change their attitude towards law enforcement, right. And back to self-defense, right, it is really about this key question of, how am I going to keep myself safe if I am ever under attack? And most people, I won't say most, we'll say many people here in very progressive San Francisco don't think about that question very often, right? The answer is usually, I'll call 911, right, and the police will come save me. And that's sort of where it starts and ends.
But isn't that the dichotomy though today though? I'll call the police, I'll call 911 and have the police come save me. But at the same time, I don't trust those bastards.
Right.
You need to defund them. Right. I mean, that's kind of the dichotomy that we're facing right now. It's a crazy thing. Chris, we're down to 90 seconds already. What are you working on right now? Give me a quick hit here on what you're working on.
Yeah, for me, this year is a back to basics kind of year where I want to get out to the range more, practicing more concealed carry tactics, and then bringing friends to the range, right? You know, for me, Second Amendment advocacy, it's not just doing, you know, fun and amazing and impactful radio interviews like this one and talking about the Second Amendment and gun culture. It at its core, though, is about introducing new shooters, right, to firearms,
absolutely.
teaching them that
Yeah.
firearms they're a tool. And
Yeah.
of course they are deadly tools, just like lots of other deadly tools, like my chainsaws.
Well,
and
yeah, that's why you need to start the Gasian,
Yeah.
the Gasian gun owners group, because you're going to teach all
Exactly.
these people how to do it. All right, Chris Cheng, Topshot champion. We're out of time, folks. We got more coming up. Willie Waffle's up next. The Michael Duke Show.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Chris. I'm in a remote studio, and so my laptop is here, plus the other board, plus 3 computer monitors, plus the thing, and I'm just like, I got to click it in 3 different ways. Usually I push one button and everything goes to break, and now I got to like click here, click there, click this, turn the music off, do all that kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's important, getting more people involved. And I really mean it when I say that. I think, you're talking about your friends and people. I think there's been some people who probably been gun people for a while. They just never wanted to say anything because they were afraid, right? They were, like you said, we can't talk even about self-defense. We can't even talk about, hey, it's a good thing that guy was able to defend his family and his daughter's virtue and keep his kids safe and all that stuff. And why would you? Oh, but he's, I mean, I think people are starting to get over that.
Yeah. I mean, part of this is like self-defense is ugly, right? It is. It's like really ugly to see people getting hurt, right? Even if it's a self-defense situation. And so I think for a lot of people who are not familiar with, thinking about self-defense, it's just an uncomfortable thought, right? But this is where we just have to face reality, right? That all of us are vulnerable, right? And I mean, right? We're on some level, right? We're vulnerable even in our own homes. I mean, the risk, the chances of someone, of course, like breaking in your home are like pretty low. But of course, you don't care about statistics if that crime is actually happening to you. I think back a few years ago when I was on Market Street here in San Francisco, and I saw SFPD. They were arresting some crazy guy, and he was fighting back. And the cops, they had to like throw him on the concrete. And, they're restraining him. And you got people, residents with their cell phones, and the residents are screaming at the police to be more gentle with him, right? To don't hurt the guy. And I'm sitting there, I was like, no, like that's just not how this works, right? It's like if you're resisting arrest, you're gonna get bruised up a little bit, right? If you're resisting.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that attitude of cops, hey, police officers, like don't manhandle that guy, like be gentle. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
but they're the first person to call 911 if something goes wrong. Those same people are the first people to call 911 when something goes sideways, and expect the cops to show up and defend it to their standards instead of whatever the police are doing.
But we're finally seeing what happens, right, when the police are too scared to enforce the law, when the police aren't restraining and arresting as many criminals, and we're seeing drug dealers and drug users and mentally ill folks and all sorts of crazy stuff happening on the streets of San Francisco. But that's changed, thankfully, with our new mayor. We got a new mayor a few months ago. The attitude is a 180 shift. I think San Francisco residents are finally realizing what happens when we defund the police and don't support law enforcement.
A couple of comments from the chat room. Terry says, you never give Chris enough time. Well, I mean, Chris could come on at the top of the hour because Willie's always at the end of the show. So we got to get Chris up a few minutes earlier, get him some coffee before the top of the hour, and then we could have him from the top of the hour till 37 after. That'd be great.
I think maybe next month.
Maybe next month.
Set my alarm a little bit earlier.
I mean, you're an hour behind me. Why are you still asleep? Anyway, and then Brian said, how is Chris feeling? I recall he was struggling with health issues. I knew that you went through that big like nastiness.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian, for the question. I'm doing much better. Long story short, it's been heavy metal toxicity, a lot of lead exposure from the shooting sports. I've moved to frangible plus non-lead primer ammunition. That's hopefully going to make a difference. But just a lot of physical therapy. Actually, also just did this breaking, cutting edge procedure called nerve hydrodissection on Monday, which is basically they ultrasound you and then they're looking for compressed nerves. They take a syringe with saline, or sometimes they do exosomes and stem cells, and they inject it around the nerve to decompress the nerve, and that has been really good for me. So I'm hoping to continue along my wellness journey. And then I can wake up earlier and come on shows like the Michael Duke Show and
have fun. Yeah, well, maybe next month we'll get you on at the top of the hour. We'll have fun because I hate it when we feel rushed, but that's the way it is sometimes.
Indeed,
especially when we get going. All right, Chris Cheng, Topshot champion, season 4 of the show Topshot. You can find him right there at the bottom. You see it right there, topshotchris.com. He's got his book Shoot to Win and so much more. My friend, it's really great to talk with you as always. I love having you on. What was the other thing that somebody said that I had to laugh at? Anthony said, gay Asian firearm enthusiast. Man, that's like a unicorn of the 2A society. I'm serious. I'm going to get some stickers made up for you. Gaysian gun owners of America or something. It'll be fun. So, all right, my friend. Well, it's good to talk with you. We'll catch you next time. Okay.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Right, folks. Here we go. We got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Okay, the weekend, Friday. It's not really Friday. Don't tell anybody. All right, we're going to continue on here. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com is going to come in. And this weekend, a little light on the movies and the 3. We got 1, but there's plenty of stuff to talk about. It's the entertainment smorgasbord. Smorgasbord, that's right. Of all the different stories, Willie's here to join us. And we're going to get right into it. Willie, my friend, so much stuff to cover, so much juicy stuff. What's happening?
Oh my God. I mean, now that the Oscars are over, everything's just coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
All the best stories. This was like the week that kept on giving. I get news alert after news alert. I'm looking through like the Hollywood Reporter or Variety. I'm like, oh, that's a great story. Oh, that's an even better story. Oh, I can't wait until I get to tell them about this. There's a lot of good stuff this week.
Wow, that's so great. Bird.
Even better story. Oh, I can't wait until I get to tell them about this. There's a lot of good stuff this week.
Wow, that's so great. All right, well let's get started. I know we got to talk about Vanna White. We got to talk about Rosie O'Donnell, but first let's talk about Meghan Markle, who,
yes.
I mean, does anybody really care? Oh, she's royalty. Oh, she's not. Oh, she is. Oh, who cares? Anyway, we talked about it when she got her big show on Netflix, right? Harry and Meghan. But things ain't so groovy in the old royal love nest. What's happening?
Yeah, not so much anymore. Oh, and by the way, it's now Meghan Sussex. She corrected somebody on the show about it. She corrected one of the producers, Mindy Kaling, who a lot of people know from The Office, and and she goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm going by Meghan Sussex now because that's my husband's name and my children's name."
Okay,
and I'm like,
right.
Could you have brought that up in a little more subtle way or in a way that mattered? Because right now they're pushing your new show called With Love, Meghan, as being from Meghan Markle.
Okay.
Not that anybody cares. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle show, right? Like, okay, like any of us could live the same lifestyle as Meghan Markle, but go ahead, or Megan Suffolk or whatever. So hit us with it.
Yeah. She thinks she's going to be the next like Gwyneth Paltrow or the next Martha Stewart, and people just ain't buying it right now. I'm going to tell you, the initial ratings are out, so this thing is on Netflix, and it very quickly slid out of the top 10. Now in the United States, the UK, and Canada, it was out of the top 10 in like the first weekend, and they say they've had 526,000 viewers in U.S. households. Okay, this is according to Samba TV. They're a data analytics company that kind of does these things. Now, let's compare that to Harry and Meghan, which came out in 2022. That pulled in 2.1 million viewers in the first few days.
Okay.
That's a substantial difference, okay?
Well, it also tells you that Harry is probably a bigger draw than Meghan. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think so. Although she can hang her hat on this, okay? It's proven to be a hit in Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, where it is still in the top 10 in Netflix streaming right now. Okay.
Of all the places to have your claim to fame would be Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. Okay, all right.
Now, Netflix is seeing something. They like something. Now, I got to give them credit. Like, worldwide, the program's kind of been hanging on to that number 10 spot. And Netflix has said that they've accounted for about 12.6 million hours that have been watched in the first 6 days, compared to 81.5 million for Harry and Meghan. But they're going to do a season 2. And you might ask why.
Okay.
And I asked myself why as well.
Yeah, why is that?
I think it's because they already have this big fat deal with Meghan Markle and Harry, and they gotta make them do something to pay it back. I mean, like they signed some big mega hundreds of millions of dollars deal, and you know what? They got to churn out some content to make it worth it. You can't give them that amount of money to get 2 series. No. Put her to work, man.
Yeah.
Put her to work.
You got to pay her anyway. You might as well get something out of it, I guess, but it's all said and done. All right. Well, Meghan Markle, Meghan Suffolk, whatever. Who cares? All right. Let's go on over to, let's talk about Gene Simmons. I mean,
this is great.
Okay, I gotta be honest. Gene Simmons, I did watch his reality TV show back in the day. I can't remember what it was called.
Me too.
But it was, I kind of, in spite of myself, I kind of like Gene Simmons. I think he's kind of like a tell it like it is kind of guy. I don't always agree with him, but I kind of like his attitude. So this sounds like this would be a ton of fun. He is asking you to pay him to be his employee.
That's right. If anybody knows how to make money, it's Gene Simmons.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you look at what Kiss has done over the years, I mean, and I'm willing, I think groundbreaking in many of the ways that they have found to make money off of Kiss, off the name, not just the music, but all the merchandising. I mean, hey, these guys run a good business, a very profitable business. And that's why I find it very hilarious. Yes, that Gene Simmons is going on tour with his new band over the summer. And while many people would just hire staff, no, you get to pay him. Yes, you get to pay him $12,495 for the privilege to be his roadie and personal assistant for 1 day on the tour.
1 day.
So basically, there's like 20 spots available.
So Gene figured out a way to cook himself up a cool $250,000 with some fanboys.
You know what? I gotta love it. Now it does sound interesting. I will give you that. You get to sit in on the sound check. You get to show up to the band with the band when they show up at the concert venue, whatever it may be. You get to hang out backstage. They're gonna make you do some work. You got to do some physical setup. And you get to have a meal with Gene. And you get brought up on the stage during the show. Not too bad.
No,
you're going to get some autographed stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
but not
Gene's
too much.
Going to sign the set list.
But
not too much.
Not too
That's
much
the
autograph
fun part. That's right. So you'll get a signed set list. He'll sign a bass that was used during rehearsals, and you get to take any pictures you want all day. But you are limited to 4 items that can be autographed by Gene, and none of them can be instruments nor instrument parts. I think they're trying to say he's not going to sign your pick.
Yeah,
or he's not going to let you. He's not going to sign the body of your guitar, which then you will put together and sell as a whole guitar.
Yeah, no, look, I think he's, the guy's a genius. What are you going to say? The guy is a freaking genius. I love it. All right, so 12. If you got 12,000, you got 12.5 laying around somewhere, and you want to go, you got 20 chances to go work for Gene Simmons. So that'll be a fantastic. It'll be amazing. All right. Okay. The Apprentice, President Trump. He's not just in the limelight in the news. He's now back in syndication streaming.
Yes, The Apprentice is back, right? And we all know that that was really the show that brought Donald Trump back. They're going to show season 2. Then the week after that, they're going to show season 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until the first 7 seasons are all available April 27th. And you get to watch, and I think people forget this sometimes. It started off as really a reality program with a chance to work for Donald Trump in his organization. And then around, I think it was season 7, they just made it Celebrity Apprentice. And it was all about just the gossip and the craziness that goes on when you get the celebrities together. So you get to kind of see a little bit of both. I have a feeling the other seasons are going to come out at some point. I would assume there's going to be a deal at some point. But hey, you get to at least see the first 7 when it was really classic.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting to watch. I've never seen an episode of The Apprentice, but
really,
no. I mean, I guess I like what I like, and that was never something that really caught my attention. But I know it was a phenomenon.
It was really amazing because to think that you're going to hire somebody for a corporate job based on what they do on the show is ludicrous. Okay, they basically break them up into teams, and they have a challenge for the day. You're going to open up a cupcake shop, and whoever sells the most cupcakes wins. Stuff like that. They have nothing to do with working for Trump.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Well, folks will be watching that, I'm sure. Here's one that's going to bring a tear to my eye. I'm just bringing a tear to my eye. The House of Mouse, still struggling with itself. It still can't figure out, how to actually talk to the public and everything. They're now facing more controversy, and they've decided not to hold a red carpet rollout for their new movie that has just been filled with controversy. So much controversy. Snow White. They're scaling back on the media and everything else.
Yeah, it really feels like they're giving up on the live action version of Snow White. Something that when it was first announced was going to be huge. I mean, they were thinking this could make $1 billion, and it's just fallen apart and had problem after problem after problem, and because of that, so this weekend, Saturday, is actually when they're going to do what would traditionally be the red carpet event. But they're not going to do it like a traditional red carpet event. They're not going to have outside press. They're not really going to walk a red carpet. They're going to have a red carpet, but they've hired an in-house crew to basically film it and ask softball questions. And then they're going to have some select photographers take pictures, because when you take pictures, you can't ask them any embarrassing questions, nor can the stars say anything embarrassing,
right.
Which has been part of the problem with Snow White. Let me take you through the history of Snow White and its stars and its controversies. Let's start with Rachel Zegler, the lady playing Snow White, who has drawn a lot of attention for her statements against President Trump and his supporters. At one point, stating that she wishes his supporters and Trump that they never know peace. She has on social media been promoting Free Palestine. And she has stated that she thought Prince Charming, really, when you look at it, was kind of stalking Snow White. Like maybe he's not that great of a guy.
Oh yeah, no.
You know,
her comments on Prince Charming and all the old-fashionedness of this and everything was like, you do not get this movie at all, do you? You just do not get this movie. And she does not get the hint. She will not shut up about this.
No, it gets worse and worse. Like, you know, one of the things they're not, like, you know, because I used to do this. They're not really doing a big press junket in the United States. Like, you know, usually what they would do is like they'd fly a bunch of press in to Hollywood. You'd see the movie. Then the next day you'd be in a hotel room and you'd go to this room to interview Gal Gadot for a little while. Then you go over to this room and interview Rachel Zegler for a while. Then you go to this room and you interview the director. They're not doing any of that. The only kind of press tour they're doing like in Japan, where like reporters just aren't that aggressive.
Yeah.
Not that they're very aggressive on the press junkets. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of Powerpuff stuff going on there too. Yeah. But yeah, so that's not happening. Now you also have people who are upset about the Seven Dwarfs,
right?
On both sides. This is what's amazing. They've made both sides angry. So on one side, you've got Peter Dinklage, who's a very well-known actor, known as a little person. Well, I mean, he is a little person. He's not known as one. But he has stated, what are they doing making the Seven Dwarfs? That's a little bit offensive. Then you've got what looked like their attempt to change the Seven Dwarfs during production. So during production, you know, you may remember a bunch of photos came out of them filming scenes with the Seven Dwarfs, except it wasn't the Seven Dwarfs. It was this motley crew of 7 different people, like
diverse people, diversity.
A Benetton ad of people who were not like the 7 Dwarfs.
Yeah,
and then that was like, oh no, that's not really. We have the animated dwarfs. They're going to be in the movie, so we don't really know what the true story was.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on.
Did they get caught and they decided to back off of it? Were these guys just a stand-in? Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
This thing's a hot mess.
Yeah. Oh god, it's been so bad. And then and Gal Gadot, who I don't think this is controversial. She's an Israeli, and she's been very outspoken about Israel and being attacked on October 7th by Hamas, and she's been very pro-Israel about the whole thing. Well, and what Disney is trying to say is, I do not want both sides showing up on this red carpet and going at it.
Yeah,
so
that's
it. They're just trying to walk away from everything. Now, what I've heard is ticket sales are not going great. Now that's just that's through the grapevine kind of stuff.
Right.
No one really knows. We'll never really know until the actual movie opens in a couple weeks. But usually a big movie like this, those tickets go on sale very, very soon. Like they would go on sale a number of weeks ahead of time. For Snow White,
they have.
I'm not kidding you. They rolled it out 10 days before the movie opened up, and I got the alert the tickets were on sale at 4:00 in the morning.
Oh man. All right. Well, Willie, we ran the clock out, my friend. We got to go. Folks, we'll see you on Tuesday. Remember, I'm off on Monday. Have a great weekend. Well, we only had one streaming thing. We didn't even get to it. That's fine. I'm just
Mr. Motormouth.
I know,
today,
man.
I told you there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, we didn't even talk about. I mean, Vanna White. Okay, but the Rosie O'Donnell. She's moving to Canada. What's going on? Rosie O'Donnell's leaving the country.
Rosie O'Donnell is one of those very, 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 very few celebrities who said she was going to leave the country if Donald Trump became president. And well, by God, she lived up to her word. So Rosie O'Donnell announced this week that she's moved to Ireland, that she has picked up her and her 12-year-old daughter have moved to Ireland, and she's living life. She says people are really nice, and she wants to become an Irish citizen, which I guess she has the ability to do because her grandparents were Irish, so she has an opportunity to do that. And she just says she's getting out of the country. That she doesn't want to have anything to do with all this, and we'll see what happens in a few years.
God bless the Irish for having her over there, I guess is all I could say. God bless them. They just all right. I know you watched the Rust documentary. I mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
The Rust. It's called The Last Take: Rust and the Story of Helena. It's a Hulu documentary. You want to hit me with just a couple minutes here before we run the clock out completely in the after show here?
It's a really good documentary, and what shocked me here is all the behind the scenes footage that is in this documentary. Footage of what they were filming on the set. Almost like there was going to be a behind the scenes kind of DVD feature or something, right? And then on top of that, police body cam footage, interviews with people at the police station when it happened, interviews with OSHA when they were interviewing people about the safety problems with the production. And it is so fascinating to watch all this and to see the reactions and see kind of the tragedy unfurling in front of you. And that's the thing that stood out. What really blew my mind, there weren't a lot of people that had nice things to say about the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez,
right,
who is the one who was convicted for this. And you see it in the footage in this documentary. Like, you see what people think about her, you see the complaints that are raised about her. And I hate to tell you this, I know this is so wrong, but you get no confidence in her and her ability to do her job when you see her and her interactions and her and what she's writing and what she's doing. You just know something bad's going to happen.
Oh, it's too bad.
And she was a kid. She was a kid, and that maybe that's unfair, but she didn't have the experience to really kind of step up here. Now, in her defense, and you see her trying to make this defense as well, they made her do two jobs. She was trying to do a lot of armorer stuff, and she was being told to do other things. And she knew, like, gee, we're supposed to be doing more here. We're supposed to be a little more safe here. We're supposed to be cleaning these guns more often. And so, I think she had an idea of what was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. And you also see, the interviews with Alec Baldwin, and it's just so captivating because you see the police arriving when this has happened, and they gather people together, and you can see they're in shock, and you see their reactions. Then you see the interview with Baldwin down at the police station. You see the moment he's told Elena Hutchins has died.
Man.
And you just can't. Oh my God. It's just so shocking. It is so emotional on so many levels. I mean, I'm at like 3.5 waffles. I thought it was really good. Really good.
I'm still disappointed that Alec Baldwin, because he was the producer on the set, and if they were making her do double duty, I'm not saying she doesn't have some fault here, but if they were making her do double duty, that's also on them, and they should have had some culpability in that, and that's why that one producer took a deal, because otherwise he knew.
He's interviewed.
Yeah, he knew he's
interviewed.
David Hall. Yeah, he knew he was going to be in trouble. Yep. So, all right. Well, Willie, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you coming on board as always. Next week we'll hit Black Bag. And my wife asked me about, have you heard of this new movie, The Unicorn Dies, or the Black Unicorn?
Yeah, the Death of a Unicorn, which is going to come out 2 weeks from now. It's going to come out 2 weeks from now. Next week we get to talk about Snow White.
Oh God Almighty! All right. Well, we'll see what it comes down to. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend. Good to talk with you.
Hey, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, folks. We're out of time. Again, I'll be traveling on Monday, and we know that I pre-recorded this because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get with Willie on Friday morning. Don't tell anybody. All right. We'll be back Monday morning, though. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
Fire.
Yes.
Fire.